The other day I was at the pharmacy waiting for the druggist. In front of me, talking with the druggist, was a young man who seemed visibly upset. Suddenly, the young man let out a few expletives and charged out the store, kicking the glass door and shattering the glass. He ran, and the pharmacist gave chase. Shortly afterward, a very upset pharmacist came panting into the pharmacy, containing his own rage. The young fellow had too much of a lead to be caught. In this talk, I'd like to look at the capital sin of anger. Anger is one of the negative emotions we all have difficult time escaping. It also is the most seductive of the negative emotions because we can so easily find good reasons for being angry. As in the incident I've just mentioned, the young man thought he had good reason to kick the door. Perhaps if anyone could hear our inner talk while we drive, kicking a door might seem very tame. What is false is the notion that anger is uncontrollable, and that letting off steam is somehow good for our psychological health. What we fail to appreciate is that angry thoughts feed even more angry thoughts. This very action is what leads to rage and violence. The longer we chew over reasons for being angry, the more we can justify being angry. Brooding over our hurts just creates more anger. Anger is a protective response that comes spontaneously when we feel threatened or in danger. As Daniel Goldman points out, feeling threatened can be signaled not just by an outright physical threat, but also, as was more often the case, by a symbolic threat to our self-esteem or dignity, being treated unjustly or rudely, being insulted or demeaned, being frustrated in pursuing an important goal. These perceptions of threat create chemical responses in our brain that can last for hours and even days. When we're under stress, our threshold for anger lowers, and the backdrop of all that threatened our self-esteem and dignity can produce an intense response of anger. Even little provocations can trigger anger and create an escalating pattern of one outburst after another. Anger builds on anger until there's a rage that in turn can quickly turn into violence. At this point, people are unforgiving and beyond being reasonable. Their thoughts revolve around revenge and retaliation, disregarding what the consequences may be. It seems clear that such anger that leads to hurtful words and actions has to be controlled so that its expression does not lead to destructive behavior. There may be a time to express our resentment or disapproval, but there's always a temptation to move from assertive behavior to aggression. There are two main ways of weakening the anger cycle. One is self-talk. As you look at what triggered the anger, take a good look at what provoked your anger. Is your upset disproportionate to the offense? Is there a more rational way of dealing with this? The second is taking time out, physically, from a situation until you calm down and revisit it more dispassionately. These two ways only work at the beginning of the anger cycle. There's not much you can do when anger has turned to rage and a person can no longer think straight. There's not enough time in this talk to develop further these strategies. For now, it's sufficient to say that we can control our anger and we can learn how to deal with provoking situations. Given our experience of anger, we can see how it can be destructive of human relationships, and as such is a capital sin. What becomes even more sinful is when uncontrolled anger becomes violent and the goal becomes a desire to hurt another or destroy property. Violence can range from acts of rudeness and disrespect all the way to murderous rage. As children, we used to say, "Sticks and stones can break my bones, but dirty names won't harm me." Unfortunately, the saying is not true. Calling people names does destroy their sense of self-esteem and their sense of self-respect. I recall a time when I was working in one of our Catholic schools. My office was right across from the kindergarten room. And one day I heard this 5-year-old boy yelling at another boy, "You fag!" I burst out laughing in my office because the boy obviously didn't know what he was saying. Yet later, I thought that even such a young age, this boy knew that words could be used to hurt. Words used as weapons can be as violent and damaging as physical beatings. We need only think of households where name-calling, put-downs, and ridicule do irreparable harm to the psychological health of children. Wives who belittle husbands and husbands who curse their wives often carry more lasting pain than physical abuse. We can also think of how words are used to slander, disseminate gossip, and defame character. How does one protect against this kind of violent behavior? In closing, let me say that anger is part of our life. Anger has the potential to be used negatively and positively. Many times anger is needed to fight injustice or when change of inappropriate behavior is necessary. Learning how to use our anger fittingly, confronting another assertively to settle differences, and de-escalating anger turn what could be sinful into virtue. Such behaviors promote healthy relationships, the goal of living together in society.